The African continent is the richest when it comes to natural resources like oil, gas, precious metals like gold and silver, rare earth metals, and thousands of raw materials. It has 40% of the world's gold, 90% of the world's chromium and platinum, and the largest reserves of diamond and uranium. However, these are exported to European countries at the cheapest possible prices. After buying them, European countries manufacture finished products that are sold at prices many times higher than what African countries were paid. That's when one asks why African countries keep selling their raw materials at the lowest prices. Well, that's because before they got independence from their colonial masters, they were forced to make agreements about selling raw materials only to them. That's why, despite being rich in natural resources and raw materials, Africa is the poorest and its population is far from prosperous. But this is changing as African countries are banning these raw materials, exports to Europe. In turn, this has affected Europe in the worst way possible, halting production and profits. But what are those countries and what raw materials have they banned? Let's know about it in this video. Number 10. Ghana bans gold and grains exports. Ghana put an embargo on exporting unprocessed gold in place on July 27, 2023, the year when things were going to change entirely for Africa. The decision was made by Ghana's cabinet, aligning with a trend observed in several other African nations. After centuries, countries realized that by exporting all the valuable raw materials, they were actually enriching Europe, not themselves. Ghana's policy, expected to be enacted into law by year-end, is designed to preserve a significant portion of the value chain before authorizing the export of products. This decision mirrors the perspective of Samuel A. Janapor, Ghana's Minister of Land and Natural Resources, who emphasized that African nations rich in minerals like lithium, a vital component in batteries, are re-evaluating their export strategies. You should know that this reassessment coincides with developed world governments advocating a shift towards green technology, prompting major automakers to prioritize electric vehicles. Ghana also issued a directive for all large-scale mining companies, effective from January 1, 2023, to sell 20% of their entire stock of refined gold from their refineries to the Bank of Ghana. This was a crucial order as it ensured that all of Ghana's gold did not exit its borders. Later, Vice President Bawumia explained, the gold that the Bank of Ghana and the PMMC will purchase will be in cedis, Ghana's currency, at the spot price with no discounts. This not only allowed Ghana's government to have a tangible asset, but also strengthened the local currency. He also clarified that community mining schemes and licensed small-scale miners were obligated to sell gold to the government. Although he didn't specify the extent to which their reserves would be affected, you should know that Ghana's government had initiated a new policy where gold, rather than US dollar reserves, would be used for purchasing oil products. This move aimed to address the declining foreign currency reserves and the demand for dollars by oil importers, which had been weakening the local cedi and raising living costs. Further, Ghana extended its ban on the export of products like maize, rice, soybeans, and various grains. Initially implemented in September 2021 and scheduled to conclude by the end of March, the ban was prolonged until September 2022. The primary objective of this ban was to secure an ample supply of grains within the country, primarily to support local poultry and livestock production. The decision was prompted by the escalating grain prices and global trade disruptions, partially attributed to Russia's actions in Ukraine. Number 9. Uganda's ban on agricultural products. In October 2021, Uganda's government joined a growing list of nations that enacted bans on the export of unprocessed raw materials. The majority of Uganda's exports consist of agricultural products, making up nearly 80% of its total exports. Some of the prominent exports from the country include coffee, tea, cotton, tobacco, copper, oil, and fish. This decision was seen as a strategic move to foster the development of value chains. Harriet Netabazi, the State Minister for Trade, revealed that approximately 69% of Uganda's raw materials were being exported, resulting in significant revenue losses. Data indicated that while raw material exports fetched low prices, the cost of imported finished products was 3 times higher. Therefore, to incentivize traders to add value to their products, the ministry secured a $28 million loan from development partners and additionally allocated $28 million to the Uganda Development Bank. The ministry anticipated that this financial support would encourage traders to embrace value addition, potentially transforming them into industrialists and bolstering the manufacturing sector in the country. Uganda is not the first African nation to take such action. Many African countries heavily rely on raw material exports, rendering them vulnerable to price fluctuations and necessitating higher expenditures on imported processed goods, leading to trade imbalances. For example, Nigeria, which exported raw materials valued at $33.5 billion in 2020, primarily consisting of crude oil, gas, and cocoa, experienced a 41.5% depreciation of the naira against the US dollar since 2016 due to the volatility and vulnerability of commodity prices. The manufacturing sector plays a pivotal role in Africa's economic transformation. Adding value to agricultural products and minerals serves as a major catalyst for economic growth. Within regional value chains, production systems circle activities ranging from beginning and design to the supply of raw materials, processing, transport, storage, marketing, and sales. Therefore, exporting unprocessed commodities results in Africa missing out on the advantages of these value-added processes. Uganda also started selling fewer agricultural products to its neighboring countries like Kenya, South Sudan, and Congo. While Uganda didn't impose a food export ban on them, traders found themselves selling less to their neighbors. This was due to the increasing costs of locally grown produce and the skyrocketing expenses associated with transporting goods across borders. Traders who managed to sell their products encountered challenges in receiving payments from buyers in other countries, accustomed to lower prices. This scenario resulted in legal disputes between suppliers and recipients, further hindering business activities. Uganda's Minister of ICT and National Guidance, Chris Baryamunsi, emphasized the government's focus on boosting production to control inflation and stabilize prices. He assured Ugandans that the situation would eventually return to normal. Number 8. Gabon bans wood logs export. The wooden log industry in Gabon holds significant importance within the nation's economy. Situated in Central Africa, Gabon is renowned for its extensive and valuable forest resources, offering a diverse range of hardwood and softwood tree species. Gabon boasts extensive rainforests that blanket around 85% of the country's land area. These forests are rich in valuable timber species like okume, azobe, and ilomba. Okume in particular is highly sought after for its application in the manufacture of plywood. The timber industry, inclusive of wooden logs, is a major revenue source for Gabon. It significantly bolsters the country's export earnings and generates employment opportunities within local communities, particularly in logging and related sectors. It's because Gabon has invested in timber processing facilities, such as sawmills and plywood plants, producing premium quality timber that Europe needs. That's why the Gabonese government demonstrated a commitment to sustainable forestry practices. It implemented measures aimed at ensuring responsible logging and forest conservation to prevent overexploitation. In addition to log exports, Gabon has focused on the production of value-added wood products, including veneer, plywood, and finished wood goods. This strategic shift toward processing and manufacturing presents an opportunity to enhance the value of timber exports. As the finished wood goods bring more value, as compared to exporting raw logs, Gabon enacted a ban on the export of logs in 2010. Since January 2010, Gabon has instituted a prohibition on the export of logs, discontinuing the practice of shipping wood in its log form. The International Timber Trade Organization has reported that this ban has been extraordinarily effective in putting a halt to log exports from Gabon. According to ITO, approximately 60,000 cubic meters of logs, primarily destined for China, now remain stranded at the port due to the ban. But the ban's benefits outweighed the losses. Due to the ban, the log prices increased throughout the world. Not only that, but since no logs were coming from Gabon, Europe started demanding finished wooden products. This allowed Gabon to seize the opportunity and invest in the carpentry industry, which brought more revenues. Gabon aims to counteract the job losses resulting from the export ban by expanding its market for processed wood and gradually transitioning towards finished wood products. The primary objective of the ban is to stimulate the growth of local industries specializing in processed wood products while curbing illegal logging. Additionally, Gabon is looking to derive benefits from the reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation program, which is anticipated to commence in the coming year or so. Number 7. Niger bans uranium exports. The uranium industry in Niger holds a key role in the nation's economy. Nestled in West Africa, Niger boasts substantial uranium reserves, positioning itself as a prominent player in the global uranium market. The development of Niger's uranium industry owes much to foreign investments. International mining giants such as Orano and the China National Nuclear Corporation have played a pivotal role in uranium exploration and extraction, offering the capital and the expertise necessary for these operations. However, Niger got itself entangled in selling uranium to France at the cheapest prices due to unbalanced agreements it had made earlier. Despite having the world's 5% high-quality uranium, Niger could not really exploit the opportunity. It was fulfilling the EU's demand by offering a quarter of uranium, in addition to providing 20% uranium to France. Therefore, to ensure that its uranium reserves don't run out, Niger decided to ban uranium exports, especially to the EU and France. That was the reason Niger's global share in uranium exports declined, because it was preserving uranium for itself. But now, after the coup in Niger, its uranium industry came into the spotlight. Initially, there were reports that Niger had announced to end all uranium exports to France. However, later it was clear that the export bans had not been imposed, but Niger had undoubtedly increased uranium prices. Earlier, it was selling uranium to France at a price many times lower than the real market price. However, after the coup, it was decided that as Niger had done agreements with the French companies, export won't be banned, but prices will be increased. The price was increased to a point to compensate for the losses Niger tolerated in the past. Number 6. Guinea bans agricultural exports to Europe. Guinea has temporarily suspended all its agricultural exports to Europe. Guinea, despite its rich reserves of raw materials, is often underrated as a source of rice, onions, tomatoes, and maize for many West African countries. Despite its mineral wealth, which includes iron, bauxite, and gold, Guinea remains one of the world's poorest nations, and the government wanted to change that. Therefore, Guinea imposed a ban on approximately 15 products, including rice, onions, dried and fresh chilies, aubergines, okra, fresh tomatoes, taro, cassava, maize, corn, yams, sweet potatoes, and palm oil. These are the products that Europe took for granted because Guinea had no other continent to export and produce them in abundance. However, Guinea decided to change this perception by banning the exports of these products to Europe. This immediately increased the prices of these products, the same as Guinea wanted. However, it still did not lift the export ban. It was because increasing the prices was not the only goal. Due to the war between Ukraine and Russia, the world was seeing a shortage of crops, and Guinea did not want to run out of its own stocks. Otherwise, after selling the crops at low prices, it would need to import them at many times higher prices. To ensure that the ban was nationwide and strict, Guinea's Ministry of Trade issued a warning that individuals who contravene this ban may face fines. This decision primarily aimed to rebuild food reserves, ensuring food sovereignty and social stability. Number 5. Mozambique bans unprocessed timber, log export. Situated in Southeast Africa, Mozambique is rich in both hardwood and softwood tree species, with a significant concentration in its northern regions. This industry contributes significantly to economic development, employment generation, and export earnings, playing a crucial role in the nation's financial growth. That's why Mozambique has emerged as a prominent supplier of timber logs to Europe, where these logs are in high demand for various applications, including construction, furniture production, and wood-related industries. European nations, particularly Portugal, France, and Italy, rely on imports from Mozambique to meet their need for top-quality timber products. However, Mozambique found out that the unprocessed timber logs it was exporting to Europe were being sold at many times higher prices. The only difference was that those were processed logs. However, if those logs could be used to make furniture and other wooden finished products, more profits could be achieved. Therefore, about 6 years ago, Mozambique took a significant step by imposing a ban on the export of unprocessed timber logs. This move was initiated when the Mozambican parliament unanimously passed a bill that came into effect on January 1, 2017. The law aimed to put an end to the export of unprocessed timber logs from the country, a measure widely seen as necessary to protect the nation's hardwood forests. The new legislation outlined provisions for the export of semi-processed timber products such as beams, planks, and parquet. However, it also introduced an export tax on these semi-processed items. Importantly, fully finished wooden goods like furniture were exempt from this tax. You see, the focus was to encourage local industries to start producing finished wood products that earned higher revenues. Number 4. Namibia bans unprocessed minerals. Export. Namibia's mining sector stands as a cornerstone of the nation's economy, playing a key role in driving GDP growth and providing a wealth of employment opportunities. The country boasts mineral resources including diamonds, uranium, copper, magnesium, zinc, silver, gold, lead, semi-precious stones, and industrial minerals. Therefore, Namibia holds the distinction of being the fourth largest exporter of non-fuel minerals in Africa, with this category constituting a significant share of its total exports over the past decade. A substantial portion of the country's revenue, amounting to 7.2% of GDP in 2011, came from the diamond mining sector, underlining its economic significance. Uranium mining occupies a prominent position in Namibia, attracting substantial foreign investments and contributing significantly to export earnings. The nation exhibits substantial potential for developing new mining projects focused on cobalt and lithium. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, reported robust real GDP growth of 4.6% in Namibia for 2022, primarily propelled by the mining industry. Furthermore, expectations of 3.2% growth in 2023 signal a return to and surpassing pre-pandemic output levels. This growth is notably fueled by a remarkable 44% upswing in diamond production, emblematic of the mining sector's overall positive performance. However, Namibia's government felt that by exporting unprocessed critical minerals, it was missing out on the opportunity to tap into the real potential. In other words, instead of offering these raw metals for pennies, it could use them to manufacture products like batteries that could earn it more revenue. Therefore, Namibia enacted a ban on the export of unprocessed critical minerals, which includes lithium. This decision comes as global demand for these metals, essential in clean energy technologies, is on the rise. The Namibia Information Ministry has officially confirmed this move. The ban applies to unprocessed crushed lithium ore, cobalt, manganese, graphite, and rare earth minerals. Although it's not a complete prohibition, the ministry has clarified that exports of these specific minerals will only be permitted in small quantities following approval by the mines minister. Namibia is known to possess significant lithium deposits that are crucial for energy storage and renewable technologies. Additionally, the country hosts rare earth minerals like dysprosium and terbium, which are indispensable in the production of permanent magnets used in electric vehicle batteries and wind turbines. Number 3. Ivory Coast implements cocoa bean export ban. When you think of the Ivory Coast, you might associate it with ivory, but it's essential to recognize that cocoa, the key ingredient in chocolate, is equally vital to the nation's economy. In fact, cocoa is Ivory Coast's most significant revenue source, contributing approximately $1 billion each year. Back in the 1970s, cocoa and coffee exports played a crucial role in the country's economic prosperity, with millions of African immigrants cultivating small plots of land in the lush interior to grow cocoa and coffee trees. Hence, the Ivory Coast proudly holds the title of the world's largest cocoa supplier, responsible for around 40% of global production. To preserve and increase the value of the valuable raw material it held, Ivory Coast announced a ban on cocoa bean exports. Immediately, the price of a ton of cocoa surged by 6.2% to reach 393, marking the highest level since January 2010. Now, Ivory Coast can either start exporting the cocoa beans or it can increase the revenue it earns by processing them. This will involve making cocoa powder and other finished products that can potentially bring more revenue. Not only that, but after the ban, Ivory Coast can make agreements with multinational chocolate companies on selling cocoa beans at fair prices. Number 2. Democratic Republic of the Congo enforces restrictions on copper and cobalt exports. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is another country that has implemented a ban on exporting its minerals and natural resources. This Central African nation has intermittently prohibited the export of copper and cobalt concentrates since 2013 to promote domestic processing. While it has occasionally granted waivers for the ban, the Minister of Mines in the DRC recently reaffirmed the enforcement of a complete export ban on unrefined copper and cobalt ores, including concentrates. The ministry's announcement outlined the ban's objective to expand the export of domestically produced products. Importers of ores from the DRC, along with mining companies operating locally, expressed concerns about the ban's feasibility. However, since Congo wants to leverage the minerals it has, it is in no mood to sell them at lower prices. It is more interested in manufacturing finished products, using these critical minerals to increase the revenues it makes otherwise. Number 1. Zimbabwe enacts ban on raw chrome. Exports to boost domestic industry. Zimbabwe has taken a powerful step by immediately prohibiting the export of raw chrome. Monica Mutsvangwa, the Minister of Information, made this announcement, stressing that Zimbabwe was more interested in using raw chrome to make finished products that can be sold at higher prices. You should know that in the first quarter of this year, Zimbabwe produced 3,926 tons of chrome ore, a substantial increase from 353,069 tons in the same period in 2020. The total earnings from exporting chrome ore and ferrochrome, a critical element in steel production, reached $231.67 million in the previous year. However, if Zimbabwe used the raw chrome ore to make finished products or to make steel alone, it could exponentially increase the revenue many times. Therefore, until it did so, it decided to ban the exports, stockpiling enough raw chrome ore to start producing steel. You should know that Zimbabwe boasts the world's second largest known chrome ore reserves after South Africa. In October, South Africa introduced a chrome ore export tax to support local ferrochrome producers. Following a cabinet meeting, Mutsvangwa informed reporters that Zimbabwe presently operates 22 chrome smelters. However, these smelters might encounter a shortage of raw materials if chrome mining capacity isn't expanded. The ban's primary objective is to bolster these existing smelters and maximize the value extracted from the nation's abundant resources. What do you think? Should all African countries boycott exporting raw materials to Europe for pennies? Isn't it true that Africa loses hundreds of billions of dollars every year by selling raw materials at cheap prices? Let us know your thoughts on how African countries should benefit from their resources, instead of allowing Europe to exploit. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.